So if you struggle with not only anxiety, but also a little nasty thing called imposter syndrome, I want to show you how it's possible to solve both of those nasty critters at once. And I'm not talking about theory. This is what actually happened to me. I used to have imposter syndrome. Before I figured out and started my company to solve anxiety, I was a pretty successful entertainer to the point where I had a show being put on Broadway, being backed by the producers of Book of Mormon and Wicked. Now, to anybody else, you'd think, wow, Daniel, you must be good at what you do. But still, there was a voice that was like, I don't belong here. They're gonna find out that I'm a fraud, which made no sense. But of course, imposter syndrome doesn't make sense. And that voice kept me from my full potential, as that voice of you're a fraud, you don't belong here keeps you from your full potential. So what happened? Well, as for those of you who may know my story, I got into a relationship that was very unhealthy. And when I came out of it, I had crippling anxiety and PTSD and nothing solved it. So I started my own research company to see if we can solve anxiety. And I was one of the first test cases where our process started to work. And I remember waking up one morning and the anxiety and pretty much most of the PTSD were just completely gone. And I thought that was incredible, and that's the best that it was going to get. But then about 2 months later, I get a phone call from a production company in LA that says, hey, we want to make a TV show out of you. Now, my old voice would have been like, who, me? No, I couldn't possibly. But instead, this voice popped up in me that was like, yeah, you do. Of course you do. And I was like, what is that? It felt incredible. And I wanted to figure out, what was that? The engineer in me, why that imposter syndrome was gone, and I didn't even mean for it. We were just working on anxiety, and this one went away at the same time. Why? Would you like to know why? Of course you do. Okay. So our research revealed that even though a lot of the experts will tell you that the mind is responsible for things and then it travels to the body, that's not true. The mind doesn't make the body afraid. The body creates problems in the mind. Does that make sense? Here's what I'm talking about. Your body doesn't follow your mind follows your body. Why? Because that's the way we're wired. Your body is engineered for survival to keep you alive. So your body tells you what you need, and then your mind is a tool to get the body what it needs. For instance, you feel hunger first, and then the mind senses the hunger and figures out where to eat. Or if you are, in the jungle and you hear a noise that, you think is a bear, you'll feel fear in the body first, then your mind figures out a way to solve the threat or the problem. So the body doesn't follow the mind follows the body. You also know this because have you ever noticed that usually when you are feeling calmer, you tend to notice more good things, and when you feel more nervous and anxious, you tend to notice more of the negative things in your life? Yes, that is because the mind is mechanically, genetically wired to follow the body. So our research revealed that basically most people are walking around with a fragile nervous system. When you have a fragile nervous system, which is in the body, it will crank out a feeling of unsafe and fear. Now, your mind is wired such that when it feels fear, it thinks there's a problem. And there was a time 100,000 years ago when there were real threats that was dangerous. But those threats are usually gone. Usually there are no tigers around. If they are, that's a whole other conversation. So what happens is you're walking through life and because you have a fragile nervous system, your body feels unsafe and creates fear. Your mind then senses that fear. And instead of going, oh, well, I just have a fragile nervous system, your mind doesn't like that. Your mind thinks there's a problem. So what does your mind do? Well, it creates a problem. It's trying to explain why you're afraid because your mind doesn't like to just sit there and feel afraid. It wants to explain, why am I afraid? And if you can come up with a reason why you're afraid, then you have a theory and then you can try and solve it and it gives you a sense of control, which makes you feel safer. Does this make sense? So if your body is feeling fear, your mind will come up with a reason to explain the fear in the body. So, if you have a fragile nervous system, which you most likely do because the whole world does, you'll feel unsafe, you'll feel fear in the body, your mind will sense that fear in a situation and start to go, oh, why am I afraid? Well, it'll make stuff up to explain it. And one of the things it'll make up to explain the fear is, you're a fraud. You don't belong here. You're going to be exposed at any second. Ah! That is scary. And that's the point. The mind creates this scary narrative, which is scary, to explain why you're feeling fear. So you don't have imposter syndrome. You have a mind that's coming up with a very scary narrative to explain why you're feeling fear in the body. Now, the real reason you're feeling fear of the body is because you have a fragile nervous system. We can help you with that. But your mind doesn't know that, and your mind just makes stuff up. So why is this valuable? Because if you can just calm the body, then the mind doesn't sense fear and doesn't have to make something up like you're a fraud, you're going to be exposed, you don't belong here, to explain the fear. It goes quiet. And again, not theoretical, real, because we see this in our clients. They come to us for anxiety and fear, but then other things like imposter syndrome go away. Now, I don't often tell clients this because they don't even believe we can solve fear and anxiety. You start telling them that it also can get imposter syndrome, they think it's too good to be true. So I don't bring it up. But it was about, what was it, like 6 months ago. Yeah, it was around, yeah. We had a client. Her name was Ashley. She was from Washington, D.C. She reached out to us and she said, I have horrible anxiety, but I also have imposter syndrome. And I said to her, okay, well, sounds bad. And I said to her, okay, well, we'll help you with that anxiety. Now, I knew it was going to help with the imposter syndrome, but I didn't bring it up. So she goes through our program and she reaches out to us around week 4.5. And she tells us, she's like, I'm feeling so much calmer. Thank you. And I said, what happened? And how's that imposter syndrome going? And she said, how'd you know? I said, little birdie told me. I was like, so yeah, how's it going? She said, that's so weird. She said, I was at work last week, and she said there was a promotion that I'd been wanting for years, but never asked for it because I thought I didn't belong there and I'd be exposed if I went to the next level. And she said, just last week, I just seemingly, for no reason, walked up to my boss and asked for the promotion. And I said, what happened? She said he was happy to. He wondered why I hadn't asked him sooner. And she said, what happened? And then I explained to her that now that your body is calm, your mind doesn't have to make up scary stuff. And she was like, hallelujah, that is the best 2-for-1 ever. I was like, it is. So if you're listening to this and you not only have anxiety, but you have a voice that says you don't belong here, you're a fraud, they're going to expose you, you better play small and not step up. If you have that voice and you know that voice is untrue and you know that voice is holding you back and you would like to find out not how to just manage that voice, but have that voice go away. And in exchange, you know what you get? You have a voice like I have my voice, which used to crap on me. Now my mind celebrates me. I used to think I'm a piece of crap. Now when I look in the mirror, I'm like, I am awesome. So if the idea of not only going from anxious to calm sounds good, but also go from a mind that goes from crapping on you to celebrating you, if you think that is the best 2-for-1 offer, it is. And I invite you to reach out to us so you can get both of those bad boys solved at once.